You understand? So we should be looking at restorative justice. Then for me, I will also advise, we look at, special court for people like this. First of all, I wouldn't expect us to say, okay, let's charge him quickly to court. No. When you pose a threat to the Nigerian state, just like in the United States, for example, just what we call the Patriot Act, when you pose a threat to the Nigerian state, that is societal threat. You can pose a threat to Vera, you can pose a threat to Kemi, you can also pose a threat to me. But when you pose a threat to the society at large, that is societal threat now, your rights must be seized. That is how security is being managed. If you don't withhold the right of such person, the person will go to prison, come back, and be more deadly. So for me, if we establish a special court, victims, criminals like this, like the one that was arrested by the military and the DSS, taking the courts. But I will also advise them to, hold on a little bit, I don't know when he was arrested. Maybe it was last week or whatever the case may be. But I think people like that, when you pick them up, you don't need to rush to the media to inform the world that you've picked them up. Keep them. Use them to gain more intelligence. Because most of his people, or maybe his financier, having known that, hey, this leader has been arrested, will want to deactivate every contact.
Could that be why they didn't disclose his name?
Perhaps. That is a very good strategy from the military and the DSS as well, because not disclosing his name, because I read the news on Punch newspaper. I was very impressed when I discovered that the name was not disclosed, because most people were looking at, can you mention and shame? No, it's not about mentioning and shaming.
Because that's what we have been talking about for some time now, name and shame these people.
Yes, name and shame comes at the end of investigation. You understand? Because you don't name and shame at the beginning of investigation. Investigation, you carry out investigation in stages. You have the preliminary investigation, you have the follow-up investigation. You understand? Before the conclusive end. So if you just pick up somebody and start naming and shaming, you will not be able to use that person to get more criminals or his gangsters or his criminal enterprise. So for me, I think that strategy by the DSS and the military is a very good one, and I give them an applause for that.
Right, interesting. So let's also perhaps look closely at this matter of justice. From what you have said, does it mean that we are just treating the symptoms, we are not really going down to the roots to addressing this issue? Because you have talked about victims getting closure. Over the years, we have seen the military, say they are rehabilitating these persons who they captured, for instance, Boko Haram, fighters, so to speak, who they get, and they said they have rehabilitated this person, they are reintegrating them back into the society. Victims see these people and they are wondering, what is government really doing with regards to this matter? So it means we are not doing well with regards to that aspect. Vera,
I agree with you. Fantastic question. You see, that was where I talk about restorative justice. I personally, I could count more than 20 to 30 soldiers I know personally that were killed by these people, this criminal element. I will put a biro and paper and write down their names, more than 30. Now, their wives are now widows. Their children are orphans, fatherless. And if a fatherless child tune into TVC, for example, and see that those who killed their father or their parents, because I saw one of the videos, some of them were eating fresh bread, sardine, they're eating so well. What our soldiers were not even eating in the front line. I see these guys eating, the killers of our soldiers. I am not against reintegration. I am not against rehabilitation. But when it comes to terrorism, reintegration and rehabilitation and reintegration is very, very sensitive, in the sense that terrorism is an ideological driven war.
So what should the government do?
So what should the government do is that before you reintegrate and rehabilitate, those people must be punished. You must be punished for your crime. You see, if you don't punish people for crime, crime flourish. And that's why punishment and shaming comes to play as well. Because people who commit crime, oh yes, I've repented of my evil ways. No. Because you don't have a sensor to check the heart of that person, if truly is repented, because it could be a decoy for him to, escape, effective punishment or sentence by the state government. So what the government needs to do, before you reintegrate, you rehabilitate and reintegrate people into the society, what you need to do, they must be punished.
What should that be?
Imprisonment, for example, is part of punishment. Imprisonment with hard labor is punishment. 5 years, 10 years. And during this process, there should be, I think I will also advise, we should start looking at having special correctional facilities, so that these guys don't go into our correctional facilities and become preachers of terrorism. Because most times when you arrest them, they go into the prison services and become preachers of terrorism. And for example, you live there 10 years, those that are coming out of prison, becomes terrorists as well. So if you have an effective punishment mechanism in place to ensure that those who commit crime against the Nigerian state are punished. Then I tell you, the spate of criminality will be mitigated. But if you don't punish them, you know what happened to the minds of other people? You say, well, when Dickson committed a crime, he was forgiven. Guy, just let's organize a group. Nigerian government is vulnerable. After 3-4 years, we'll put the Nigerian state at risk, put the Nigerian people in a state of fear. Government will call for us for a negotiation. They will pay us billions of naira. And that is why I'm also against an incident where government will start sending money or giving money to most of these criminal elements and saying that, oh, we're trying to... No. You don't play with the devil. Playing with the devil, you're playing with fire, because each time you negotiate with criminals, you are negotiating with the devil. And I tell you that the social factors and the emotional repercussion will be more deadly, because they themselves, what was the reason why they go into terrorism? Wickedness.
Another issue about what could have been the reason why people are going into terrorism.
All right.
While we are saying sympathizers, so to speak. This man arrested was, one would assume that he wasn't arrested in the forest. He was arrested living among locals.
Okay.
And ISWAP, the ISWAP ideology, analysts have said government also needs to, while you're doing the military arm of, tackling them militarily, you also need to look at the social factors behind it, because my question basically is, how do you displace ISWAP, for example, a breakaway faction from Boko Haram? And they've said that unlike Boko Haram, ISWAP protects the people. The people know them. The people know that they are ISWAP terrorists. The people see them as the only government they know. And so government may also need to look in that direction to be able to displace them totally beyond the surface. There's also need for government to also do the needful in terms of, having a friendly face, so to speak. Let the people know that you are government and these people are terrorists. They are not really after your good. What do you look at all those, bigger issues that more or less feels terrorism?
I just pray the government are listening to these questions, beautiful questions that needs to be looked into. Most of our people, some of them, have lost faith in our security agents because 2 years ago, Boko Haram went to a community and killed almost everybody, claiming that they were a source of intelligence to the military, that they were passing information to the police, and they were passing information to the farmers, thank you, that they were passing information. Now, how do you expect these people to trust the government? That is another big issue we need to start looking about, and that is why the military and the police needs to come back home and reassess themselves. Find out those bad eggs within the system that are, selling out information to these terrorists that hurts our people. Because once the people lose hope in the military, intelligence-wise, lose hope in our security agents and DSS intelligence-wise, I tell you, there's going to be a big problem. Now, talking about the community and the criminal elements living together, there are various factors or methodology you use in eliminating terrorism. The military and our security agent needs to start looking at delinking, the resourcing, and demobilizing these terrorists. You need to delink them. What happened now? The arrest of the ISWAP leader is one of the delinking methodology the military has carried out. And it's going to work effectively, because now there will be no link between the leader and the followers. And once the followers lose the link that connects them to their leaders and financier, I tell you that the spate of terrorism will depreciate. So they need to start looking at the linking methodology. Then the resourcing is also very important, because where did they get the resources from? How did they get the money to finance this kidnapping? How much do you think it costs to buy a Kalashnikov, a general multi-purpose machine gun? Do you know, it's very expensive to get this arms and ammunition.
And they have this.
And they have it at their hands. So looking at the leader is not sufficient. Let's look at the financier. In the last NSAS incident project, the CBN, quickly cuts those that financed the NSAS project. Yeah. Now, we need to start looking at banking factors. How would they help in getting the financiers of terrorism? So if we look into the link methodology, the resourcing methodology, and demobilization methodology in this war, bringing in the military component, the social component, and the societal component, political component, terrorism will be mitigated. But I will not come here to tell you that we will be able to eliminate terrorism, because crime, the truth is, crime will live with us till eternity. we will live with crime. But the factors we're looking at is how to reduce this crime. Nigeria is not having a good name in the international community. Every day I will get a call from outside the world. What's happening in your country? What's happening? Are you telling me your guys cannot kick off this ASS? I say, I'm sorry, they are doing so well. So for me, I think the military have done so well, the police have done so well, because for you to put your life on the line, and our soldiers must be appreciated, Vera. You know, I woke up this morning, you know, once it's 5 o'clock or 5 a.m., 4 a.m., you know, you start feeling, the sleep becomes so sweet, you know. I said, oh my God, alarm, TVC this morning, and I'm coming all the way from Chevron. So I said, oh, 5 o'clock I'm awake. But why am I asleep? Some soldiers are in the battlefield awake, pursuing the enemies they never created, pursuing the people they never, the people causing problems to this country they never created. Because no soldier creates enemy. The enmity comes from the political angle, then the soldiers go to dismiss it. So that is why from the political perspective, our politicians must also remember that none of them will live till eternity.
I'm sure there are those who would want you to expatiate on that statement you just made.
What statement is
enemies are created from the political angle.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So expatiate on that. How do you mean?
Okay, for example, there was a coup in African country.
Yeah.
And, you know, you voted the president into power. The military came and fetched him out. Are you with me? Then you want to send some soldiers to go and fetch out that military. Those soldiers you are sending there, they didn't create that problem. You understand? They didn't create that problem. So that is why politics is a very sensitive angle. Because
but these ones are terrorists.
You say what?
These ones are terrorists that we are talking about.
How were they founded? They were political motivated.
Ideology.
It is an ideology-driven component. So when you look at these issues from political angle, every problem in a society is political. Are you with me? It's political. So sometimes the reason why they strive could be due to social factors.
Right.
You know, if we have good education mechanism, unemployment mitigated to as low as reasonably acceptable, we don't have high turnout of unemployment. Then there was a recent flood is in the Benue State that Nigerians were displaced in their own country.
Right.
Yeah, you know, you see, when we look at disaster, you could talk about natural disaster. You could talk about man-made disaster, and you could talk about inadvertent disaster. Natural disaster is caused by God. It's natural, you know. We can't do anything about it. Man-made disaster is what is the problem of Nigeria today. Terrorism is man-made disaster.
Right.
Most countries are working so hard to curtail with man-made natural disaster. But here, we are fighting so hard to curtail with man-made disaster.
So how should the military move on from here now that they have him in their custody? Because earlier you mentioned that you wouldn't want them to prosecute him as quickly as possible. They should take their time, get information. Yeah. So how should they move on from here? Yeah, moving on from here, I think they need to have an effective collaboration with the security agency, the police, the DSS, for intelligence purposes, you know. The military, as like I rightly said, have done so well. So what they should be doing as right now is to, like I mentioned, 3 factors to delink the resource. Now, start looking for the financial, those financing terrorism. Look out for their financier. Because if you cut off... They have the capacity to do that. Yes, the military has the capacity to do that. Because, Vera, money, we're talking about cash and money here. They have the capability to do that. Even if they don't, the DSS has the capability. I am very sure they have the capability to do that. If we can do it during the NSAS period, we can still do it during this time of terrorism. Look into the banking factors. Look at, because fighting terrorism, you have to look at the placement. We've been talking about it for a long time. Look into the banking sector. We've been talking about even NIN, BVN. How is it that we can't still trace this? Then there's a compromise somewhere, because security is achievable, like I rightly said. All right. Very, very achievable. We'll leave the conversation here now. Yeah. Dickson Osajie, Certified Master Anti-Terrorism Specialist. Thank you for your time on the program. Thank you, Vera. Thank you.